What happens when best friends and business partners are also longtime dentists and certified professional life coaches?
Welcome to Let's Talk It Out, the life coach vlog where we work through life's daily challenges.
We're going to be opening the door to look behind the professional mask.
So, yes, Karen, I have a question for you.
Okay, go.
What insecurities have you hid behind your professional mask? And how have they shaped who you are today?
Well, I was knowing we were going to talk about this today. While I was making my cup of tea this morning, I was like, let's think about what did I hide behind a professional mask? And one event came straight to the front of my mind, which was when I was sick. And you have that feeling when you're going to be sick, you feel something is coming on. You're probably viral and you're just starting to not feel right. And I started off with a bit of a sore throat. And I knew that day, the next day, I had to go into work and I was going to be the only dentist there with my team of orthodontic therapists, which are a bit like orthodontic assistants here in America. I knew that I was the only person to supervise. So there was no choice. I had to be there. And the next morning, I don't have my tonsils. They were gone years ago, but this just felt like a tonsillitis thing. And I felt like I woke up with a golf ball in my throat. And I'm like, I don't have a choice. I still have to get into work. So off I go. I drove the 30 minutes to work, got there, got changed into my scrubs, went down onto the clinic floor, had a mask on because I was like, well, I just wore a mask on. I didn't ever want to be in front of patients without my mask on. Had my mask on anyway, and I felt so bad. And I literally thought, I don't know what I'm doing here. I sat down before my first patient even came through the door. And I thought I could just disguise how I felt, that I could do this, it was fine. And it was one of the ladies that worked with me, and she just stopped me for a second and she said, "You're not okay, are you?" And I was like, "No, I feel terrible, but I can do it. I can do it." And I was prepared to still be there. And she said to me, you can't pretend you're okay. You're not. You need to go home." It was a really difficult decision in my mind do I show everybody that actually I am sick and I'll go home and literally spoil the whole day for everybody, or do I continue to work? And it was this kind lady's words that was like, "Go home." She was probably a similar age to my mum. She maybe had that role in that moment when I was a younger dentist of like, "I'm going to care for you here, go." So I did go home. I went to bed. I woke up about an hour and a half later, and unless my neck was extended, I couldn't breathe.
Jeez.
My throat was so swollen. We had to call, in England it's 999. It was like 911, whatever. And an ambulance came and took me to the hospital. And I then ended up on IV antibiotics after having whatever cameras down my throat to see what on earth was going on. But my throat was just so swollen. I just couldn't breathe. But yet my professional mask was so strong that day that I thought that I could just keep going. And I would have realized pretty soon that wouldn't have been the case when I probably couldn't breathe properly. But it was just like the instinct. And I think that's where this professional mask is. It's the instinct that you have to be in control. You're here to do a job. You're here to look after people, and you're going to be fine.
So did you take anything away from that experience?
Yes, I think I never did it again. I would now be very much an advocate that if I didn't feel well, or if somebody else doesn't feel well, it's okay to say, "I am not well and I need to look after myself." Who knows, if I had looked after myself that morning and I hadn't gone to work, maybe I wouldn't have ended up in the hospital. But at least I think I'm just now a much bigger advocate for, if you're not okay, it's okay to tell people, because we are, after all, human, and we're not infallible, and we can't always be fine. So now I will be much more ready to tell people on a day when I don't feel great, I don't feel great. Although I'm still not perfect at it. I'm definitely not perfect at it. And I would very much go along with just saying, yes, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the part of me will be like, you can give into this and you have to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have to show people. Otherwise, how would anybody know?
Right. That's so valuable. And I just think about too, like, we think we're doing a great service for our team and our patients, but really what level of care are we providing when we feel that ill?
Yeah.
Probably not the same level of care as when we feel great.
It can't be, can it? Like, it just can't be the equivalent of it. It's just not comparable. To have a healthy person who is looking after you to having somebody who feels so bad that all they want to do is go and put their head down.
Right.
And I'm sure I can probably guarantee that every person who works clinically has been in that position before, where they are there when they should not be, saying, I'm fine. I mean, how many times have you've not felt great and a patient walks through into your room and they're like, hey, how are you? And you go, I'm great, thank you. And you're actually feeling terrible. You probably sound terrible, but yet the words that come out of your mouth are, I'm great, thank you. We're not alone.
No. Well, and it makes me think of putting myself on the other side of it when I go and visit a provider as a patient in any way, shape, or form. I'd certainly not want them to be there if they didn't feel good. Yeah. I would certainly understand, it might make a wrinkle in my schedule, but I would certainly understand that if they were not feeling up to par, I wouldn't want that subpar provider there. And, I would want them to take care of themselves.
And that's coming from a position of caring about that person. But don't you think in today's day and age now, I'm kind of a bit phobic of being sick. I have been, touch wood, healthy for quite a long time with no viruses and no nothing, because of being so careful after pandemics, that I now don't want to be sick.
I know.
There's part of that. We don't want to share our viruses with the world either. So
no,
it's a lot that we should be doing to put that. That's one portion of a mask. But what about you? What example would you think of a story of your mask?
It's interesting when you were telling your story and yours was physical feeling. I think about my mask of emotional feeling and putting on that mask that I have it all together. I'm in the best mindset to be here for you today, for my team, my patients. I am good. Right. And I remember a day when it really hit home for me was my husband had surgery and I was with him during the surgery and the recovery, and we were away for about 10 days, which was a big amount of time to be away from my office. So when we got home, I felt like I needed to get right back to it and got back to it, started seeing patients. But emotionally, I was a wreck. I wanted to be home taking care of him. He was still pretty fragile at that state. But I put my mask on and I took care of my patients. And I had this adorable couple that would come in. And the husband would always come in with the wife because she needed help transferring in and out of the chair. And so he would come in, and they were just so fun to talk to and just wonderful people. Anyway, they came in and, I put on my mask and it was there for them, and they sensed that something was off. And they asked, and I don't remember if it was her or him that asked. And in that moment, I decided that I felt safe to take off my mask a little bit and say that I really wasn't okay. I didn't give them any details. I just said, you're right. There is something going on right now. And in that moment, they said, hey, let's do a group hug. And can we just put out some good intentions for whatever you're going through right now? And that was just like a little sliver, when you crack a little and a little light shines in, you're like, oh, it's okay to show my humanness, because that's how we connect. That enriches the relationship. And in that moment, I realized that, maybe it's okay to share a little bit and not always pretend and be inauthentic. And so it was a really good, I mean, and it wasn't like I changed overnight and just became, the complete authentic sharer. But that was a moment. And like you said, I'm still working on it. There's still times I push through or put on that mask, everything's okay. So, but it was a moment that made me realize that's actually what people want. They want to see the real you.
Yeah. I think we're talking about what's behind your professional mask, but you could also take that word professional in another sense, that we are professionals at wearing masks. Like, it's both ways, isn't it? We wear masks because of our profession, but we are very professional about wearing them because this has been something that has been ingrained in us from the very beginning. Weirdly, that you become, you're a doctor now, you're clinically, you're seeing patients, you have to be good. And interestingly, in both of our stories, somebody noticed and somebody saw that there was a chink in the armor, that something wasn't quite right, which led to both of us learning something. So maybe for people that are listening, the next time somebody maybe notices the chink in the armor, that something isn't quite right, maybe instead of just dismissing it and saying, no, I'm fine, that's the opportunity to actually listen to what that person said, take that and reflect. Because that seems both of us discovered it by somebody pointing it out.
Yeah. That's excellent insight. And I think a really good way, because it once you get used to wearing that mask, you almost don't even realize that you have it on. So it almost does take somebody else to kind of bring you.
It's just the way we work. It's so ingrained. It's the fabric almost of who you are, that you can just do that.
Yeah.
There must be a positive side to it.
Yeah, we learned.
Yeah.
And we hope you guys, as our listeners, learned a little bit today. And just know that we are here to give you encouragement.
Indeed.
And that we adore you as our listeners. So we hope you join us again for the next Talk It Out.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.